Welcome to Bet On It. I am Kelly Stewart, and it is week 14 of the NFL season. I cannot believe how time has flown by, but we're going to bring in Marco and VR, get some of their analysis. We've been crushing this NFL season, you guys, and I think that really comes down to minimizing just a few games. This is a really tough sport to beat, and I tell people this all the time. I play maybe 2, maybe 3 games, but I want to hear from the king of volume himself, VR first. At Greek Gambler on Twitter. If you're not following him, you are missing out. VR, I'm going to have him pull up our records real quick just so everybody can see why it pays to watch Bet On It. And then I want to hear your argument to why volume works for you.
No, you're absolutely right. In a market like the NFL, where your edges are smaller and it's much more difficult to beat, you have to be more selective and, more importantly, be confident if you're going to bet volume that you have an edge. Because again, there's just so many sharks that you're trading against. You always have to remember it's a zero-sum game. It's not you against just the sports book. It's against other bettors who are trying to get a better number than you. And once that number is gone and they took it, they beat you to it. And for me, as a volume bettor, like, I know how tough the NFL is, so I'm even more selective there than other sports. Even for me, I don't go as heavy volume as I do in other sports. But with all that said, also want to add here on the show, we have to be even more cautious because it's early in the week. And that's why I always make sure and let the viewers know so they manage their risk correctly, which of these are opinions and which of these are actual bets that I've placed. Because we're going to give plenty of opinions and cover plenty of games. And there's not all that many bets that you should make in all of that. So again, there's a difference between having an opinion on a lot of games and actually getting to the window with a lot of games. And with the NFL, I'm more selective than I would be in college basketball, where I know they're so soft, we're going to move, their totals are going to move 5-6 points. In the NFL, they're not soft enough to move 5 points on a total unless it's a blizzard outside. So that's where the game changes. And in the NFL, again, you see that by the volatility, the lack of volatility in the line movement. Still there, but not like in those other markets. So yeah, you're right, Kel. You're absolutely right. Be more selective.
Marco, when someone buys your package over at WagerTalk, what should they expect from you as a handicapper?
Well, Kelly, for me, low volume. Generally, on a daily basis, you're going to see 1 to 3 plays. On the weekend, you're going to see probably 3 to 5 in a sport. I don't go the volume route. I like to be more selective. NFL, one of the reasons why I've excelled, I should say, so well in the NFL over the years is because it is the most, I don't want to insult people, but it's the most played by the average Joe. Okay. Everybody plays the NFL. If you bet it all, you play the NFL. So you get a lot of recreational players. And too often, recreational players bet with what they see last week and they draw conclusions. And that's the worst thing you can do. And, I don't want to keep harping all of my sayings that I use, but they come into play, with teams are not as good as they are. With their best game and not as bad as their worst game, things like that. Finding those sandwich spots where the market's soft. It's a spot where an NFL team might look past somebody. Yeah, sometimes it's going to bring up some ugly games, and we did have one of those ugly ones last week in the sandwich spot, but we've had more winners than losers with those, and that's what you can get from me. You're going to get statistics. You have to always still look at stats, but as I've said all the time, these are not machines. These are actual human beings that play the games. When you look at solely at stats, in my opinion, you're expecting them to be robots, that they're going to perform on the exact same level week in and week out. Well, I always say stats don't breathe. They don't bleed. People do, and that's who play the games. You're going to have those emotional ups and downs. And I've made a good living over 40 plus years doing this, finding those spots where I think a team is not going to play at their peak level and you're going to get value in the line.
In the NFL, where the lines are so tight, I live and die by those emotions, aka those overreactions. All right, let's get started into Thursday night. We have the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Minnesota Vikings. This one on the WagerTalk odds screens all over the place. I see 3.5. I see 3 minus 120, 3 even minus 125 at one of the spots. So bookmakers have not really decided on whether or not the Vikings should be having that hook. And if you want that 3, you got to pay a premium for it. Total is currently 44.5. Marco, I'm going to go to you first as the resident Steelers fan here. They got the W for me last Sunday, but I'm not quite ready to go back to the window with them here.
Yeah, Kelly, and if you followed me over the years, I pride myself in saying that I feel that nobody knows the Steelers better than I do, but I'm not a homer. I go against them as much as I go with them. And this is a spot where I've got to go against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Kelly, it's just as bad of a situation as you could get for the Pittsburgh Steelers this week. Last week, they played the Baltimore Ravens. Now, if you are a fan of the Steelers or the fan of Baltimore, you know the intensity of that rivalry. It is the hardest hitting rivalry in the NFL. This would be the equivalent of Michigan, Ohio State in college football as far as rivalry goes. They're very physical games every time they play. These two teams don't like each other, and they've been the two teams that have dominated the NFC North for almost 2 decades. So when the news broke last Saturday that Ben Roethlisberger's probably hanging it up after this season, they made it, kind of official, officially unofficial. Let's say it that way. There was a lot of emotion, a lot of things going back and forth with teammates and such. And Ben wanted this game bad last week. It would be the last time he would face the Baltimore Ravens in Heinz Field. And the Steelers were getting beat. Ben led them to a 17-point fourth quarter and rallied them for the victory. Had to survive a 2-point conversion. And I'm going to bring up that 2-point conversion at the end of the game because a lot of people questioned Harbaugh why he went for 2 instead of just kicking it and going to overtime and take his chances there. The reason being is because it was such a physical game, Baltimore was depleted on the defensive end. They were all beat up. And he just didn't feel he had enough healthy players to survive overtime. So he wanted to win it at the end of regulation. And because of those injuries, Mike Tomlin and Ben Roethlisberger got together on the sidelines, and they decided in that fourth quarter, Tomlin let Roethlisberger go hurry up offense and call his own plays. And that was the key because Baltimore didn't have a chance to get set. Ben was calling what he was seeing on the field. All of that played into the comeback. So don't get overly confident in that Pittsburgh solved their offensive woes. They didn't. They didn't do anything for 3 quarters in that game. It was all in the fourth quarter. Now, after such a physical game, they've got to go on the road, Kelly, and play a team they're not familiar with. They don't play all the time. And they got to do it with just 4 days rest. Do you know how hard it is to recover after a Baltimore-Pittsburgh game physically on a 7-day week? Now you got to do it in 4. This is a horrible spot for the Steelers. And for Minnesota, last week's loss is as bad as it can get. You're the team that gave the Lions their first win. It doesn't get any worse than that. And normally, Minnesota, their playoff hopes are pretty much dead in the water. I wouldn't want to play them, except it's a Thursday night game. We've talked about this before. Teams, whether they're in it or out of it, if they're playing on a Thursday, a Sunday, or a Monday night football game, a standalone game, you're going to get their best game. And it's just a horrible spot for the Steelers. I'll go ahead and take Minnesota against my Steelers and give you one of those little stat gems with Minnesota. Coach Zimmer, Kelly loves Coach Zimmer, and this is one of the reasons why. Coming off 2 or more losses since he's been head coach in Minnesota, he is a sparkling 16-5 against the spread. It pains me to say it, Kelly, but I've got to go against my Pittsburgh Steelers, Minnesota on Thursday.
That's pretty funny. Marco took the words right out of my mouth. VR, Mike Zimmer off a loss. And last week he cost me my last survivor pool. Couldn't believe that fourth quarter. Congratulations to the Lions. But the good question is now, Are we getting a little value here? Maybe the Vikings off that ugly loss to Detroit. The line should be just a touch higher.
I'm going to give you an opinion on this game, Kelly, and it's going to be on the total. And the reason I didn't get to the window is because I missed the 45, even 45 and a halves that were out there. And we're now looking at as low as 43 and some 43 and a halves. Now, if it goes back up, I may get there because I do like this under. It makes a lot of sense. Number one, Pittsburgh's going to want to run the football over and over and over again. Because they saw that teams that beat Minnesota had success doing that. Over their last 5-6 games, you saw San Francisco run for 200 plus yards. You saw Baltimore run for 200 plus yards. But on the flip side of that same coin, you saw Minnesota hold 3 or 4 other teams to less than 100 yards. And what I'm trying to say is the weakness on the Minnesota defense is their rushing success rate. If you look, I think they're 31st in the NFL. But Pittsburgh, unfortunately for them, doesn't have the rushing offense to take advantage. Offensively, their rushing success is 28th in the NFL. So they don't have, at least so far this season, haven't shown to have the ability to take advantage, but you're still going to have to try to do so when that's the weakness of your opponent. So I think that's going to force the Steelers into rushing the football more than you'd assume. On the flip side of that coin, the Minnesota offense, if you look at that injury report, again, this is what we got to wait for as the week progresses. And for me, that's most important this late in the NFL. There's a lot of players on that offense that are either questionable or already out. So again, that to me tends to shade towards the lower points scored. And it all makes sense. I think that's why the sharp money reprimanded the 45 that was out there. So for me, I agree with the move. I like the under, but I always say, once the line moves, you have to be willing to say, sure, it could cash, but has the value been extracted? And I'm now looking to be the product of good luck and not the product of a good bet. I would rather make a good bet and lose than make a bad bet and get lucky, because I don't intend to do this just once. If I was just going to make one bet, then fuck it. I just want to get lucky. Who cares? But if I'm going to bet tomorrow, the week after that, the month after that, and the year after that, then the last thing I want to do is win by luck. I want to win by placing good bets. And when there was 45 there 2 days ago, and now there's 43, I'm not too sure it's still that high of a plus EV good bet. So I have to stamp it with an opinion. And since that's not one of our, record plays, I'll go under here for Thursday night.
I do lean under as well. But like VR says, we are here to teach you guys to make better bets. And I will do a video with VR during the offseason talking about key numbers in regards to totals, because this one is no longer on a key number of 44. Sunday night football, Chicago at Green Bay. Green Bay is just absolutely rolling here. And here we have, on the flip side, the lovely Chicago Bears. WagerTalk on screen. Seeing some 13 start to pop up at some of the sharper books. Total 43.5. Marco, I'm going to go to you first here. My thoughts are precisely this. I think this is too many points to lay with the Packers. But can I really back Green Bay? Aaron Rodgers owns this team.
Yeah, Kelly, you're absolutely right. And I went long on the last game because I had a lot of good things to say about the game. I'm going to be short on this one because this is just an opinion for me. And my opinion is on the under in the game. And it's going to be tough to do. Nobody's going to want to bet the under when they look at the Sunday night football game, because all of a sudden Aaron Rodgers, last 2 games, they put up 31 and 36. That's almost the total by themselves. And then they're going to look at Chicago last week. They were involved in a game that had 55 points scored in it. So why would anybody bet under 43.5? Well, it is a division game, and it is Green Bay coming off of their bye week. They've had 2 weeks to prepare. My thing that I'm concerned about with Green Bay and why I think it's an underplay, they already beat this team, so they're going to feel like they just need to show up and they're going to win this game. They won on the road in Chicago, so it should be even easier here at home. They'll go through the motions. And if you look prior to the last 2 games, They had scored 24 points or less in 5 straight games. Green Bay wasn't putting up a ton of points. And as far as Chicago goes, they can't score. Yeah, they put up 22 last week, but they were getting blown out and they had to force the issue. They had 4 turnovers, and that's why that game went over the total. They gave Arizona some very short fields last week that sent the game over the total in bad weather. I'm not going to look for that here. I think it'll be an under. But again, can I get to the window? Probably not. 43.5 for the under is where I'm at. Just an opinion. It's not an official play.
Well, our good friend Ralph Michaels went another 3-0 last weekend on those double-digit faves to the under. So again, Marco takes the words right out of my mouth before I can even kick it to VR. VR, do you like the under as well on Sunday night?
I don't really have that much of an opinion, to be honest with you, on the total. It's not a game I got real excited about so far. I mean, that could change between now and Sunday. And it's another spot where I look at the total and it was 45 and a half. And now I got to lay 110 to go under 43. That changes things a lot. So again, I think that's the right side, but is it a good bet now? That's the question. Instead, I'm going to look to the Chicago side. And here's another opinion. I don't want to bore you because rest assured, I'll have some 4% plays and best bets for you before it's all said and done. But it just doesn't happen to be on this primetime game. But you got to look to the Chicago side. The problem with that is it's a game of contradictions. And sports betting actually is exercising contradictions. First of all, it's obvious. We know in the NFL, pick the winner. You just cash a ticket, right? 8 out of 10 times the spread don't matter. So in cases like this, it should be automatic, right? You bet Green Bay. They should beat Chicago. We know who's better. They're at home. There's no reason they should lose. So if 8 out of 10 teams that win cover, there you go. You got your answer. Bet Green Bay and forget about it. But the contradiction is the spread becomes the great equalizer when betting sports. So we have to pay attention to it. Because again, there's even key numbers. The spread matters so much. So you have to be able to balance the two. And that's how you make sense out of it all. And in this spot, I just think it's the weakness for Green Bay. We have enough season now to trust the metrics. And their weakness is on the defensive side of the football. And when that's the case, you probably don't want to be in the camp of laying double digits. Now, Green Bay's beaten Chicago 9 of the last 10. I know they've covered 5 straight. They've covered 8 of the last 9. And even the game earlier this season, they won by double digits. But they were only 5.5-point favorites. And what I'm getting at is if you look over the last 10 times these two teams played, Green Bay has never been more than a 7.5-point favorite. So again, if the spread's the great equalizer, Chicago's the side. If all we have to do is pick the winner and we cash a ticket, Green Bay's the side. That way, for me, it's leave it alone. I don't have a dog in the fight, but opinion right now is Chicago. That could all change between now and Sunday. I still dig in deep. I still have access to good information. But right now, I'm on Chicago as a dog or nothing at all. And as of right now, it's an opinion play.
All right, great stuff, Marco and VR. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, it's time for some TNA with Ralph Michaels.
It's the most wonderful time of the year, college football bowl season, baby. And there are 42 bowl and playoff games to keep us entertained for almost 3.5 weeks. Starting with Toledo versus Middle Tennessee State and going through the national championship on Monday, January 10th, pick your favorite WagerTalk or Sports Memo handicapper and get every college football bowl game day release, including any 5% best bets normally priced at $35 for the low price of $149. As an added bonus, make sure to download the free WagerTalk College Football Bowl Guide by going to wt.buzz/rm. From everyone at WagerTalk and Sports Memo, good luck this college football bowl season.
Welcome back to Bet On It. Now let's bring in the guy with all the nerd charts. That's right, Mr. Ralph Michaels, the stat daddy himself. And he's got an extra treat for you guys today because we have Army, Navy this weekend. Thought we were going to get a football lull, but Ralph's got some really good info on this one.
Well, Kelly, more importantly, let me bring up that later tonight or by Thursday morning, I'll be posting the WagerTalk Bowl Guide. So I went through, I have all the logs for you. I have the stat comparisons year to date. I broke down every bowl team on what they've done only on road and neutral games. And then I broke down what every bowl team did versus winning FBS teams only, getting rid of all those blowout games. All of that information, a full page for every bowl, that'll be on my homepage at WagerTalk.com. I also want to mention the last 4 years in the bowls. Number one at WagerTalk going 33-15. The bowl package is normally $149 with the code BOWL50, WOBL50. You'll get all of my bowl plays from the number one college football bowl handicapper for just $99. That's WT.buzz/RM. All right, enough of the commercials. I want to talk Army Navy for 1 minute. And I tweeted this out, and it's really no secret that Army and Navy has gone under the total 15 straight times. It used to be an automatic bet for me, but I do want to preface that 15 straight unders with this. The average line for the last 15 years was 48.3. Last year was the first time it was under 40 in that entire span, and it was 37.5. This year, it's 34 or 34.5. So while I still like the under, the true value of those 15 straight unders far diminished, and I want you to be aware of that. Secondly,
Yeah,
Cal,
Ralph, sorry, no, I was going to say you make a really good point there in regards to those unders. Just buyer beware, right? This line's already come down just a little bit. This is not that automatic bet necessarily now at a much lower number than we've seen historically.
It is. And, you know, our good friend John Ryan has given us some tidbits. You can find John over at sportsmemo.com. But listen to this, what he came up with. How many times does a team average more points than the total of the game? Army's averaged 35 points per game this year, and the total for this game is under that. So John broke down the numbers. When a team averages more than the total that is posted, that team as a favorite has actually covered 62%. And here's the surprising one. When the team has averaged more than the total of the game, the under has hit 71% of the time, going 32-13. Great breakdown, John. I didn't even think about breaking that out, but clearly a unique situation where one team is averaging more than the Las Vegas over-under total.
That is pretty insane. Good stuff from Ralph. And of course, our good friend John Ryan over at sportsmemo.com. All right, Ralph, this is an NFL show. You have 7 NFL situations for us.
Make it 6, Kel. I can't count that high. Once I get past one hand, you know, sometimes I get in trouble. So I have one hand in the pen. I should have said that. All right, let's break it down first. The Detroit Lions, the red-hot Detroit Lions, off the tie and off the win. Well, when an NFL team wins a game straight up as a dog of 6 or more, like they did, and then they're a dog again or 6 or more, like they are this week against Denver, it's happened 64 times. Those teams off the upset win as a big dog, 17, 46-1. Those teams have only covered 27%. Makes total sense to me. You pull the upset one week, it's very unlikely to pull that upset or even cover the second week. This one we've brought up a few times this year. When we're looking at teams from week 6 on, so you're into the season, you're 4-4, you're 5-5, you're 6-6. You're exactly 50% on the year. You're off a win as a dog, and now you're at home. So you have positive momentum. You pulled the upset. You got back to 500. Those teams like the Washington football team, I almost said Redskins there by mistake, are now 62.1% against the spread. So Washington at 50%, off a win as a dog, and now as home. One more, Cal, and I want to get your opinion on this one. Small home favorites of 3.5 or less, off and away loss. So I'm throwing out the last 2 weeks of the season when some teams don't play. So when you're looking at the rest of the year, teams like Cleveland, Carolina, and Minnesota are off an away loss, and they're a home favorite of 3.5 or less. Listen to this record. 29.3% against the spread, only 17 and 41 for those teams. That one surprised me. At home, small favorite off a loss, 29.3% against the spread. That says to look to fade Cleveland, Carolina, and Minnesota. Your thoughts on those first three?
Well, Ralph, that makes me really happy because I like 2 of those teams you just told me were a play-on spot here. I guess the other ones are more of a play against. Sorry to hear that about your Cleveland Browns. I love the Ravens this week in a teaser.
Let's continue on. And one more is sort of a subset. We just talked about Minnesota as a small home favorite, off an away loss. But when a team is off a loss as a favorite, like Minnesota is, and their opponent is off a win as a dog, and they're a single-digit home favorite, like Minnesota is, those teams have only cashed 7 times. They've failed to cover 26 times. So Minnesota off a loss as a favorite, Pittsburgh off a win as a dog, and Minnesota's a home favorite, puts them in a 21.2% bracket or a 78.8% play on the Pittsburgh Steelers. The last 2 I want to talk about, both situations where teams off a win, a good team off a win and a good team off a loss. First, we're going to talk about Tennessee. Week 8 on, so I'm looking at the second half of the season. You have a win percentage of 60% or higher. We know Tennessee got off to that start. And yes, they may not fall into this category with Derrick Henry, but again, the angles are the angles. So win percentage of 60% or higher, week 8 or later in the NFL, and you're off a loss of 21 or more points. So a winning team off a blowout loss. Remember, Tennessee lost to New England last game, 36-13. Those teams like Tennessee over Jacksonville, 75% against the spread, 21-7 going back the last 8 years. It doesn't happen very often, but you get a good winning team off an embarrassing blowout, they do tend to bounce back. And the last one, winning teams. You have a win percentage over 50%, so you have a winning record. You're off a win as a home dog, and you're a favorite this week. Well, let's see. The Green Bay Packers beat the Rams last week as a home dog. They do have a winning record, and they're a favorite against the Chicago Bears. Those teams in that role, 40 ATS wins, 75 ATS losses. That's a 34.8% play on Green Bay, or fade Green Bay for a positive situation on the Chicago Bears.
Oh, the Chicago Bears. Ralph, we all know that Aaron owns this Bears team. But thank you again for all of your hard work. Every once in a while you get me to the window, but I don't think that is going to be one of them. I was waiting to get one of those Jets nuggets that told me that I had to bet the god-awful Jets. Thank God. I guess I just have to bet the Bears this week. Thank you again to Ralph. Make sure you guys are giving him a follow at CalSportsLV. It's now time for the teasers of the week. Let's bring back in Marco and VR. Last week, those long teasers were very profitable for me, so I'm going with them again this week. Looks like we got the Rams, the Ravens, the Falcons, the Broncos, and the Seahawks as possibilities. Marco D'Angelo, who are you going with?
Yeah, Kelly, there's so many of them to choose from, but I whittled it down to 2, and I'm going to start with the Atlanta Falcons, and this is the poster child for a Wong teaser. you've got Atlanta going through all the key numbers in a very, very low total. That's what we live for. And then speaking of which, the Carolina offense, do you really expect Carolina to get separation over anybody? I know Atlanta's looked dismal at times this year, but this is Carolina and Cam Newton. I don't see them getting separation. So it's a no-brainer for me. The first half of my teaser is the Atlanta Falcons. Tease them up to 8.5. Now, the second one does all of the things we want it to do going through the key numbers, but it is a high total. So you are going to have a little more variance in this one with the Rams and the Cardinals. But I'm throwing in another factor, and I know we talk about it and say it's the most overused word in sports, and it is, but there's certain spots that I do like it. And this is a revenge spot that I like for the Rams because the Rams lost the first meeting on their home field. Not so much a big fan of revenge just because a team's coming home for the second meeting. I like it better when they lost that home meeting first. And if you go back to that, when I look at games and try to decide if I want a revenge angle or not, I have to see if there was anything special about the first meeting. And boy, was there something special. We were all over Arizona in that first meeting because the Rams were coming off their big win of the Tampa Bay Bucks. Remember after that week, they were printing those Super Bowl tickets already for the Rams, opening the season up 4-0, dominating Tom Brady and everybody. Well, you know what? One of my sayings came to play. They were fat and sassy in that first meeting, and they got punched in the face and taken out behind the woodshed. Now it's their turn for revenge. Yeah, they were on a couple-game losing streak, but they righted the ship last week against, yeah, I know, it was Jacksonville, but you know what? I'll use a horse racing reference. Sometimes you got to drop your horse down in class just to get its confidence back, and that's exactly what the Rams did as they smoked the Jacksonville Jaguars. I look for this one to be a game where, you know what, the team that has the ball last wins the game. And if I'm getting over a touchdown, that's fine. I don't care who has the ball last. Give me the Rams on the back half of that teaser.
That is a teaser that I played as well. Truth be told, these might be all that I play this week, and I hate this week's card. VR, your thoughts on a teaser for NFL Week 14?
Well, we spent the first 3 weeks of the season making a great case on what teasers to play. And the only reason you should ever place a teaser, or otherwise you're placing a negative EV bet. Regardless of outcome, you're placing a bad bet. And I think we made a really good case and had brought a lot of receipts. The proof was with us. Going into this week, there's a lot of long teaser teams available. This morning, here's what we had, because I have one book that actually still gives me even money, only for a nickel, but he gives me even money 6-point teasers. And there were 7 teams available: Cincinnati, Tennessee, Baltimore, Atlanta, Seattle, Denver, and the Rams. 7 teams. That's 21 2-team teasers. That's the combinations. I swear to you, I placed all 21 of them. Didn't even care what they were. I know there's 21 combinations. Played them all like a round robin. And that's 10 dimes worth of action. Because it's even money, I know I have a 5% edge. So that's worth to me about a nickel. I should make 5, regardless of what we win or lose. That was worth a $500 putting that in. That's how I look at teasers. To me, I think next season we should, because the goal is to give them the viewers the best plays and help them win money. And I think if you have a teaser, we should use it. If you give it as a pick to grade it. But if you're not using a teaser, then we're kind of just throwing them out there. So for me, like I said, there's 21 combinations. I'm going to give you one of them now. I'm going to give you Atlanta plus 8.5 and Denver minus 1.5. The reason I chose those two, honestly, because they have 2 of the lowest totals, 42 and 42.5. And that's where points matter the most. So I'm going to use that for the show because we're grading it. But like I said, the only reason to use a teaser is on those 7 teams at those numbers. Otherwise, there's no reason to tease. Lay the 110 at the spread because the math has already proven there's no advantage to those 6 extra points. None. Actually, you put yourself at a bigger disadvantage for taking the 6 points than you would if you just laid the 110 at the number. So yeah, we'll go Atlanta plus 8.5, Denver plus 1.5, and I highly recommend you get into those Wong teasers. But again, if you're laying even 120, your edge is only 2%. So out of that 10,000 bet, it would only be worth $200 to me. And at that, I'm not even sure I'd do it because, again, if a book burns me after a week or two, then all that work was for nothing. So you have to weigh in your risk and your reward, when you're dealing, especially with not at the window sports books.
Absolutely. When I was at a sports book just a couple of weeks ago, walked up to the window to bet a teaser, and it was minus 140. I just looked at my money, looked at the teller, and I just walked away. I didn't even know what to say. So definitely make sure you are clarifying before you put those bets in. Luckily, I didn't care too much. The White Claws helped me out a little bit. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, Steam Game of the Week, the deli back open, and of course, we got some of those barking dogs.
Each and every Monday is $9 Monday at WagerTalk.com, and all daily picks packages are priced at only $9, including 5% best bets, normally priced at $35. As an added bonus, any picks packages loaded early for Overnight Tuesday or action during the week will also be priced at $9 until midnight on Monday. So make sure to take advantage of getting these $25 and $35 picks for only $9 before the clock strikes 12 and they return to regular price. Founded in 1957, the Gold Sheet is the country's longest-running sports betting newsletter. Each week, the Gold Sheet team delivers analysis on NFL and college football games, along with NBA and college basketball matchups. The Gold Sheet maintains in-depth point spread and results logs, giving sports bettors and enthusiasts the insights needed to maximize their wagers. For over 60 years, Gold Sheet readers have received key releases based on power rankings on all teams, and for the first time ever, you can now get these selections exclusively at goldsheet.com, wagertalk.com, and sportsmemo.com.
Welcome back to Wager Talk. I can hear that freight train rolling. That only means one thing, and that's right, it's the Steam Game of the Week. VR, drop some of that gold.
Steam's coming, baby. And this is as square as it comes, so it's going to scare some people. Because the public and the sharps are on the same side, and that's Tampa Bay Buffalo over. And to me, it just makes a lot of sense. I'm really surprised this hasn't gone up to like 55 so far. That scares me a little bit that it hasn't, to be honest with you. I thought it should already move, but I think it's because of how Buffalo looked also on Monday Night Football, with that low scoring game. And then even like you look at the Tampa side, and they're coming off where I think 2 of their last 3 games have gone under the total. So maybe that's the reason for not all that excitement, coupled with you look at least the metrics on the defensive side. Buffalo's number 1 defensively against the pass success rate. And even against the run, they're number 2. So it's like they just shut teams down. But this is Tampa Bay. And if you look at them offensively, which is even more predictive, they're going to have some success throwing the football, even with the Bills being, number 1 against that. And I think that's where we have our edge, where other teams it's like to crack that code of the Bills defense and have any success passing is very difficult. A few teams were able to do it, but almost none. But Tampa Bay's just at another level. That's what they do. Passing the football is what they do. So I don't think, giving them some time, they're going to have any trouble scoring and putting up some points. And I think Buffalo's going to get their points, especially coming off the offensive performance they had Monday night. Look for them to put up some points on Tampa Bay, whose defense I think is a little bit inconsistent. You saw over the last couple of weeks, they're giving up 10 points one week, 30 the next, 17, 29. It's not consistency. And that's what I like when I have an over. So give me the over 53 for our Steam play, Tampa Buffalo.
Tampa Buffalo. This is making me kind of question maybe backing the Buffalo Bills this week. I don't want them to get in a shootout with the Bucks. Marco, the deli is not condemned yet, but apparently it's back open with another tuna fish sandwich.
Yeah, Kelly. Last week, yeah, it was the stinky cheese last week. But you know what? You got to remember, we've had plenty of those stinky cheese games, and we've won more of them than we've lost. So if you're inclined, one of those guys that love to at me on Twitter when we have a bad play, make sure you at me whenever we win one. That's the only way I'll actually listen to your tweet. I don't want to hear, guys that only chime in when you lose one. And you guys know who you are. But we're going to go to the New York Giants this week. And yeah, who's going to want the Giants? They got smoked by the Miami Dolphins last week, 20-9. Only managed 9 points last week. And now they're going to another quarterback. Right now, the early reports are Jake Fromm, who wasn't even on this team 12 days ago, is going to get the start. We know Daniel Jones is hurt. Last week's quarterback, Mike Glennon, he's in concussion protocol right now. So they signed 12 days ago Jake Fromm. Now he's had 12 days of practice to learn the playbook and be ready for this one. But, this play is just as much of going with the Giants as it is going against the Chargers. And, we were on the Chargers big last week, and they came through for us. Now they are in a major, major flat spot. Why? Well, yeah, I know they're in a battle for a wild card spot, but who are they in a battle with? One of the teams was the team they just beat last week, Cincinnati. And let me look at the schedule. Who do they got on deck? Oh, wow, they play the Kansas City Chiefs. That in itself is enough just to fade the Chargers. But wait, I'm looking at the date. Can that be right? It's in 4 days. They play on Thursday night football next week. Do you think the Chargers are going to lay it all out on the line on Sunday when they got to come back and play the Kansas City Chiefs in 4 days? This is one of those spots where that big favorite is just going to want to get in, get out, and get home. They got to get ready for the big one on Thursday. I'm taking the New York Giants plus the points in this one. And you know what? The Giants, number 18 in points per game allowed. The Chargers are number 27. The Giants, number 12 in yards per play allowed. Chargers are right behind them at 13. So we've got the slightly better defense getting double digits in a bad scheduling spot for the Chargers. That's good enough for me. Let's go New York Giants. Hold your nose if you have to. I really don't think it's that stinky.
Well, I like the under in that one, Marco, and I'm with you. I hope the Chargers just come out very flat. And good luck to the deli not getting closed out by the health department after having 2 stinky sandwiches back to back. All right, it is now time for my favorite segment, Barking Dogs. Let's see who has a shot to win outright this week. Marco D'Angelo, you're on deck.
Well, Kelly, this one could have been my best bet for the week, but I didn't have the dog that I liked as much. So I slid it into the Barking Dog segment, and we've got a different play for the best bet, and that is the Buffalo Bills. Anything you saw on Monday night, just erase it from your memory banks, okay? It was those 45 to 50 mile an hour wind gusts. It was just a boring game to watch. New England won the game by throwing one pass. Yes, one pass in the entire game. And as much as I like Bruce Arians as a coach, he's no Bill Belichick, okay? So Sean McDermott's not going to get totally out-coached as he did by Bill Belichick on Monday night. I like the Bills here, and all of the reasons going into this one. Yeah, Tampa at home, Tom Brady, all that, blah, blah, blah. Look at the number, okay? They're basically telling you that these two teams are even with where the line's at. You've got Tampa Bay with the home field advantage, and that's basically it. I've got the Buffalo Bills that have the number 1 defense in points per game, number 3 in yards per play. They are going to hold Tampa at bay in this game. Josh Allen, passing the football was an adventure on Monday night. He is at his best when he's got all of his arsenal open to him. And the one thing that he adds to it, his arsenal that you don't get with Tampa, is Josh Allen can beat you with his feet as well. He is not afraid to tuck the ball and run when the defenses break down, drop back in coverage, and have their backs turned to him. I like Buffalo to get the job done here. Buffalo is the number 2 defense overall. I'm going to go ahead and take them. Give me the better defense, getting points. You know that formula. I've used it over and over again. And one final note, Buffalo is 6-0 against the spread the last 2 seasons versus the NFC. Not only are they 6-0 against the spread, they've won those games by an average margin of 12 points per game. Give me Buffalo. They need this one bad, and I'm not betting a team just because they're in a must-win situation. This is a solid football team getting points that will be very focused because they can't afford another loss. Give me Buffalo.
And just like that, I'm back on the Buffalo Bills. Marco D'Angelo. I'm in a glass case of emotion right now. VR, who is your barking dog for this week?
We're on the same side. I gave the over 53 to my subscribers as a 3% play, and I gave Buffalo plus 3.5 minus the VIG as a 4% best bet. Again, I like them on the money line also. I think this is a very winnable game, and it is because of the advantage they're going to have on the defensive side of the ball. Like I said, Tampa will have some success. As good as Buffalo's defense is, they're at home. It's that Tampa offense, which is number 1 offensive success rate, number 1 offensive pass rate success, rush rate success. So again, Tampa will have their success offensively. The difference is Buffalo will get their stops where Tampa won't be able to do that. And a few stops is going to be the big difference maker in this game. I like the Buffalo Bills rather than waste your time going deeper because I think Marco broke it down as well as I possibly could, if not better. So I'll share another one with you real quick, a bold dog. Here's a little gold because I have so much basketball for you and I've been crushing it, but you can't use it. The show won't be out in time. So I got to figure something out to get all this stuff out there. But I gave out Michigan State. Michigan State, it's down now to below a field goal. So you're probably better off even taking money line. One of those games, I don't think you're going to need the points. We started betting them, I think, plus 3.5, plus 3, plus 2.5, sprinkled a little money line. So take it with, as you will. I made it a 4% best bet for a bowl game. I think it's on the 30th, so it's a couple weeks away. But like Western Michigan, when we get out ahead this early, more times than not, the line continues to move in our direction. So if you agree, you probably don't want to wait too long. If you disagree,
I would
sit back.
agree.
You're going to get a better
You
number
don't want to
fade
wait for Kenny Pickett to say that he will not be playing in that bowl game. You want to get Sparty right now. I was able to get that 3 this morning. So thank you to VR for that one. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, it's time for Best Bets.
Tuesdays is known as $2 Tuesdays at WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com, where you can get the hottest handicappers' best bet or daily package for only $2.
Have you checked out all the new handicappers at WagerTalk? If not, here's your chance. You can take 50% off your first daily or 3-day all-access purchase at WagerTalk using coupon code TRYWT. Our new roster of experts is 30 deep, covering sports from all around the world, giving you tons of options to choose from. All you have to do to redeem this offer is go to WagerTalk.com, choose a handicapper of your choice, and use coupon code TRYWT at checkout, saving 50% on your first purchase.
Welcome back. It is time for Best Bets. And per usual, I'm going to go first. This is a game I have had circled since the start of the season. And if you guys remember, I was very high on this Washington football team. I thought they had a really nice shot to win the NFC East, and boom, in the first couple of weeks, no more Ryan Fitzpatrick. We got Taylor Hinkie, and has he been okay? Sure, he has. But what's been more impressive is this 4-game stretch since they went into their bye week. They have been very impressive. He's only thrown 2 interceptions in those games, and I do like to see how this offense is going to evolve against him. How else better to do it than against this Dallas team? This these two teams have beat the crap out of each other historically. I know Washington isn't some high-scoring team, but I do think that this defense will be able to contain the Dallas offense. I think 5 was too many points. Currently 4 on the WagerTalk odds screen. I believe this game should have been closer to 3, but it doesn't matter. I think Washington gets the outright W. Better sprinkle a little bit on that money line. Marco, you are up next.
All right, Kelly, we're going to one. It's probably going to be an ugly war, but we talked about all of the disadvantages that Pittsburgh had this week. Well, Baltimore's got some of those disadvantages as well. They're a banged-up football team after that physical game with Pittsburgh. And we've got a unique scheduling situation with the Cleveland Browns. They're playing the same team in back-to-back games. That doesn't happen very often in the NFL. In fact, the only time it ever happens is if it's the last game of the season and then they're meeting in the playoffs. But here we go. Cleveland's playing Baltimore in back-to-back games. They had their bye week sandwiched in between. That's a huge, huge edge for Cleveland. And yes, this is a revenge game. And I say over and over again, it's the most overused word in sports. But when it's a rivalry and it's the season on the line, yeah, it's pretty damn important. And if you remember that first game, unfortunately, I do. I had Cleveland +3 in the hook, and they were covering all until about the last minute when Baltimore couldn't run out the clock and was forced to kick a field goal up 3 to win by 6. That was a game where Lamar had a horrible outing, but Lamar had a horrible outing again last week. Lamar Jackson's just not 100% healthy, and he keeps making mistakes. Cleveland, Baker Mayfield, he's been banged up all year, but having that week off is going to do wonders for him. And as far as the rest of the team goes, Cleveland's as healthy as they've been all year. Coming into a game against the team that is banged up, Baltimore, and playing with revenge on your home field, I'll go ahead and I'll take Cleveland here. Only 5 games remain on the schedule. Cleveland can't afford to drop both games to Baltimore if they have any hope of catching them. This is a game they've got to get. Small number, I'm going to go ahead and take the Cleveland Browns to get the job done as my best bet.
All right, VR, your best bet for NFL Week 14?
I'm going to take you back to Thursday night, Kelly, because I gave a 4% best bet out to my subscribers, and that's on the Minnesota Vikings over the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the reason's as simple as it comes. The much better defense at home wins the game. And this week, it's a week off for Minnesota compared to what they've been facing. Let's put the Detroit game aside. They had a 4-week stretch, at Baltimore, at the Chargers, home to Green Bay, at San Francisco. All 4 of those offenses are top 10 NFL in success rate. Pittsburgh, 25th rushing success rate, 28th passing success rate. Like I said, after those 4 offenses, this is a week off for that Minnesota defense. And then on the offensive side of the ball, rest assured, Minnesota is going to put up points. We saw the Chargers put up 40 plus. We saw Cincinnati put up 40 plus. We won't have to do that. We won't need to put up 40 plus, but they'll put up just enough to get the win. Because I also lean under, and that's the sharp side. I don't have any cash on it really, but I'm on Minnesota. Lay the points. I like the Vikes.
We're headed to our last commercial break before we wrap it up. But really quickly, I wanted to remind everybody about Ralph's Bowl Guide. It will be posted on his homepage. That is wt.buzz/RM. That's all the logs, the stat compare for year-to-date stats, away neutral stats, and versus winning FBS teams only. Thank you to Ralph for always putting together those nerd sheets just for me. When we come back, it's time for the recap.
It's the most wonderful time of the year, college football bowl season, baby. And there are 42 bowl and playoff games to keep us entertained for almost 3.5 weeks. Starting with Toledo versus Middle Tennessee State and going through the national championship on Monday, January 10th. Pick your favorite WagerTalk or Sports Memo handicapper and get every college football bowl game they release, including any 5% best bets normally priced at $35 for the low price of $149. As an added bonus, make sure to download the free WagerTalk College Football Bowl Guide by going to wt.buzz/rm. From everyone at WagerTalk and Sports Memo, good luck this college football bowl season.
Sad to end week 14 a bet on it, but for all of you guys that just scrolled to the end, it's time for the recap, and you missed some of that VR gold. Thursday night football, Pittsburgh, Minnesota under 43.5 for VR. Minnesota for Marco, which also happens to be VR's best bet. I too like the Vikings. Sunday night football, VR said, look, you got to take the points here with the ugly dog, which correlates with Ralph's TNA. Marco says he likes the under 43.5. As far as teasers go, both guys in agreement. The Atlanta Falcons plus 8.5. VR says take Denver down below a field goal, minus 1.5. And Marco says take the Rams over a touchdown, plus 8.5. The steam game of the week, Tampa Bay, Buffalo over 53. The deli's back open with another double-digit stinky sandwich in the New York Giants and a look-ahead spot for the Chargers. Barking dogs, everybody likes the Bills. Marco, Cleveland minus 2.5 is his best bet, and mine is the Washington football team. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us every single week. I hope you enjoyed tonight's show as much as we do. Filming it from VR, Marco, Ralph, and myself. Good luck this week. And until next week, let's bet on it.